Gonna take a sentimental journey, gonna set my heart at ease, gonna make a sentimental journey to renew old memories. I've got my bag, got my reservation, spent each dime I could afford. I'm like a child in wild anticipation. I long to hear that all aboard.
The guys that I was associating with came from varied backgrounds. Virtually all of the parents of the guys that I hung out with on my block had emigrated sometime in the 20 or 30 years before this. Now we're talking about the early 40s, had emigrated in the late 30s from different European countries. I was 17 years old and had a hobby of playing pool, and this was a Sunday morning, and I was shooting pool. The radio was on in the pool room, and by golly, there was the announcement: the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. My reaction was, now I wonder if I'm going to get into this. As I say, I was 17. At the time, they were drafting guys starting at the age of 21. And so I had no idea, of course, how long the war would last, but I entertained the thought that I could well be involved. I wanted to finish college. I was in my third year at the time that I would be due to be drafted, and so I had in mind at first just waiting to be drafted. As the time approached, we're talking about the spring of 1943, I knew I was going to be going in, and I had taken a lot of course credits at the college I was at to be able to get as much as I could get in before I went into the service. And I found out that if I avoided taking the midterm exams, I would be able to get credit for them, but I had to go until April of 1943. And at the last moment, I realized that I might not make it and still have to take those exams, and so I volunteered at that point, hoping I'd be called up a month earlier. But that's the extent of my volunteer activity. No, I had in mind trying to complete as much college as I could. I was stationed with Italian prisoners of war that had just volunteered with Italy's surrender to help support the American Army. And so I served in an Italian service unit as a company clerk and interpreter for about 5 months. So I became an engineer, training as an engineer, a master mechanic, at which time I decided I'm not going to be a master mechanic because I'm not that mechanically inclined. So I volunteered to go to officer candidate school, was accepted, and trained and graduated from officer candidate school, and then went overseas. As I mentioned earlier, there was a diversity of guys from different nationality backgrounds on the street I lived on, 160th Street in uptown Manhattan. And when I came home on leave from my service with the Italian POWs, the former POWs, I went to visit the family of one of my friends that was from Italy originally, Martosio, and I told Mrs. Martosio what I was doing and working with these Italian former POWs, and she lit up and said, "Oh, you have to do me a favor. I want to give you something to take back to those guys." And she brought out a big jug of wine that she made in her bathtub. And that was one of the things they did, and she asked me to take that back with me and give that to the Italian POWs, former POWs. And I did that, and they were delighted. I was sent to the Philippines, yes, the war was on, and we were heading for what we assumed would be going into a group that would be in the invasion force against Japan. The impressions of the Philippines, we came into a port called Angeles, which was on the southern tip of the island of Luzon. And this was just a couple of days after VJ Day. The fleet had been anchored around there, and the Japanese had surrendered. And so we were in a very swampy part of this island of Luzon, and lots of rain, and it wasn't a very attractive environment, but the war had ended, and so obviously we were pleased about that. But shortly after that, a few days later, we were trucked up to Manila. And as we were getting into Manila, the scent of what I thought had to be dead human flesh was in the air all over. And it made me realize what had been going on there before we got there. Our work was to help in reconstructing the damages that were done in Manila. We were just 20 miles or so from Manila. And so my first job was as platoon leader of a construction platoon. And that platoon was making repairs on the main boulevard there in Manila, which was called Dewey Boulevard. So we were fixing the road, so to speak, at that time. We got very, very friendly with this family. They would have us over for dinner virtually every week. The man and the wife were both physicians. The man had been the personal physician to President Quezon of the Philippines at the beginning of the war, before the war started, and the two teenage kids were very friendly. So we enjoyed that kind of relationship, and I found myself becoming very fond of the Filipino people, both those that worked for me and the friends that I'd made there. Well, shortly after I had the platoon leader job, I was asked to take over the job of a personnel adjutant. So this was kind of like the military personnel officer for the battalion. That's what it was, actually. And I felt an interest in that kind of thing, and I was interested in labor relations. I had studied labor relations in college as an economics major. So that fit for me, and I thought, well, I can use this experience to build on when I get out of the military. And it was positive, and I developed enough competence at what I was doing that it gave me a feeling of self-confidence. I liked the idea of supervising, managing a group of Filipino civilians and American militaries, enlisted people, one or two officers. And so for a guy of just having turned 21, I felt gratified that I was getting that kind of experience.